Hello there. Let's take a journey through one of the most pivotal chapters in human history, World War II. Picture a world teetering on the brink of chaos, where empires rise and fall, and ordinary people are thrust into extraordinary circumstances. This is the story of conflict, resilience, and indomitable human spirit. Let's dive into it. At the end of World War I, Europe was a patchwork of disillusionment and despair. The Treaty of Versailles had left Germany in ruins, its economy shattered, and its pride wounded. As the 1920s rolled into the 1930s, the specter of the Great Depression loomed large, casting shadows over nations already struggling to rebuild. Adolf Hitler, a man who would seize this moment of vulnerability. With a silver tongue and a fervent vision, he rallied the German people, promising to restore their nation to greatness. Meanwhile, across Europe, Benito Mussolini in Italy was tightening his grip, establishing a fascist regime that sought to expand its influence. As nations grappled with economic strife, Japan was on the move as well, seeking to carve out an empire in Asia. The global stage was set for conflict, and tensions were simmering beneath the surface. In this charged atmosphere, Hitler made his move. The annexation of Austria in March 1938 went unchecked, a bold declaration of his intent. The world held its breath as he turned his sights toward Czechoslovakia. But it was the invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, that ignited the powder keg, sparking the flames of World War II. As the dust settled over Poland, the sheer scale of the conflict began to reveal itself. Germany's Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, struck swiftly, employing a terrifying combination of speed and surprise. Polish forces crumbled under the onslaught, and soon Denmark and Norway followed. In the West, the French and British mobilized, but the shock of the German tactics left them reeling. In May 1940, the Germans unleashed their fury on France. Within weeks, Paris fell, and the French government capitulated. The world watched in disbelief as Hitler's forces celebrated their triumph. Yet, hope flickered in the hearts of the British. The Battle of Britain loomed ahead, and in the summer of 1940, the Luftwaffe descended upon the UK, aiming to crush its spirit. Day after day, bombers filled the skies, and the sound of air raid sirens became a haunting lullaby. But the Royal Air Force, with its skilled pilots and innovative tactics, fought back fiercely. Winston Churchill, the indomitable Prime Minister, rallied the nation with words of courage. "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender." The resilience of the British people shone through, and by the end of 1940, the Luftwaffe's campaign had failed. It was a turning point, a testament to human determination against tyranny. As Europe teetered on the edge, the conflict expanded its reach. In the Pacific, Japan's ambitions grew bolder. Their forces swept across China and into Southeast Asia, leaving devastation in their wake. The US watched with growing concern, but remained largely isolationist, until December 7, 1941. On that fateful day, Japanese forces launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The sound of bombs falling and ships exploding reverberated across the globe. The United States was thrust into the conflict, its resolve galvanized. A date which will live in infamy, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared as the nation united in the fight against fascism. As the war raged on, key battles began to emerge. The Battle of Midway in June 1942 saw the U.S. Navy deliver a stunning blow to the Japanese fleet, turning the tide in the Pacific. Soldiers fought valiantly on island after island, reclaiming territory and pushing back against the Japanese advance. By 1942, the tide of war began to shift dramatically. In the East, the Battle of Stalingrad marked one of the most brutal confrontations in history. German troops, emboldened by previous victories, laid siege to the city, but the Soviet Union, fighting for survival, mounted a fierce defense. As the bitter winter set in, the Soviet forces launched a counteroffensive that would encircle the German army. The battle raged on, and against the backdrop of destruction and loss, Stalingrad became a symbol of resistance. In early 1943, the surrender of German forces marked a turning point on the Eastern Front, setting the stage for a relentless Soviet push westward. Meanwhile, the Allies were preparing their own major offensive in Europe. The D-Day invasion, codenamed Operation Overlord, was meticulously planned. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy, in a colossal display of courage and sacrifice. The air was thick with tension as thousands of soldiers faced enemy fire, determined to secure a foothold in Europe. On that historic day, the Allies had established a beachhead, paving the way for the liberation of France. The echoes of gunfire and the cries of valor filled the air, marking a decisive moment in the struggle against tyranny. As the war drew to a close, the world braced for the reckoning. In the spring of 1945, Soviet forces closed in on Berlin. Adolf Hitler, cornered and despondent, chose to end his life rather than face defeat. On May 8, 1945, Germany officially surrendered, a day celebrated as Victory in Europe Day. But the war in the Pacific raged on. The United States, determined to bring the conflict to a swift conclusion, made a fateful decision. In August 1945, atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was unimaginable, leading to Japan's surrender on September 2, 1945. The world was left in shock, grappling with the implications of nuclear warfare. As nations began to rebuild, the scars of conflict were evident everywhere. The United Nations was formed, aiming to prevent future wars and promote global cooperation. World War II was not just a tale of battles and leaders. It was a story of humanity, resilience, and the struggle for freedom. It serves as a reminder of the darkness that can emerge when hatred prevails, but also of the light that shines when people unite for a common cause. Thank you for joining us on this journey through World War II. If you found this narrative insightful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this epic tale resonates with you the most? Let's continue to reflect on our shared history and work towards a brighter future together.